Pitta, Nidra, and Brahmacharya. So these are the three things that we need for our happiness. You're not trying to have more of the other energy. You're trying to fine tune the energy where you are in, and you're not trying to go out of balance. So this is how the whole universe also works. Create your mind and organizing by Pitta, and then getting delivered by Kaphas.
Wow, okay. I think this has gone to a deeper level that I never considered. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Illuminating Dialogues number 12, where I have the honor to invite again Dr. Sujatha. How are you, Dr. Sujatha?
I'm very well, Jhoty. Thanks for making this possible, and it's always joyful for me to be with you, and you pick my head, and I share what I know. So it's really fun. I'm looking forward to another episode of this.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to another dialogue because the last one, I've just learned a lot. I think my mind was blown in terms of Ayurveda and the understandings there. And for those of the listeners who've not watched Illuminating Dialogues number 9, Dr. Sujatha did a wonderful job of introducing Ayurveda. Where did it originate from? What are the doshas? And how we can incorporate this in our life so our body and mind can be a bit more balanced. So I'm wondering for this episode, if we can go into a bit more, some technical information and practical information that people can use to actually understand their doshas and how to balance that in their life. So last time we stopped on a very interesting topic, which was called, and you can correct me if I'm not pronouncing this right, Prajna Parada.
Yeah, Prajna Parada or Prajna Parada. They both.
Yeah, so this word was very interesting because you mentioned that people are not entirely conscious sometimes, or they go against the known wisdom of the body.
Okay. Interesting topic, and it can be, we can go very deep, or we can see how we can talk this in a simple way. Prajna is our consciousness. Aparada means going against, is doing a wrong or a sin. That's what it literally means, the word, when you break the Sanskrit word. Place in achieving the conscious. The three criteria for that are, we call in Ayurveda, the Sanskrit word for that is dhi, dhriti, and smriti. These are the three things gives us consciousness. These ability to discriminate, to see what is it, right, wrong, or ability to understand what it is. So discrimination power is D. Then dhriti is the ability to take right action. When we kind of discriminate whether this is good or this is bad, or this is this, or having the awareness of what it is, and then we need to take the action, making decision and acting immediately. That is dhriti, that's the confidence, the courage to do, courage to take action. And then we have smriti, which is recollection, recalling. That means it plays an important role in memory aspect, recollecting from our past experience, past learning, and bringing that into to discriminate, to take action. So these three factors play a role in our awareness or consciousness. So when we have these three factors, that makes us be conscious and alive and fully be present. And we go against this dhriti, and smriti. So we can go against our discrimination ability. We culminate that by giving ourselves a wrong information or doubting, and then not taking the courage, not taking the action to what need to be done, which is in our favor, of our happiness or health. And then not able to recall sometimes. So when our mind is dull or tamasic or under the influence of drugs or alcohol, we're not able to recall, right? So then we don't know what's the reality. So in this way, various level, the consciousness can be misperceived, and we go against that, causing our own unhappiness and leading into diseases by creating imbalances in the dosha.
And thank you for explaining that in such detail, because a lot of people, especially after the podcast, were like, this sounds great, but how can I actually put this into practice? And you just use these terminologies that I myself are not familiar with, and maybe people watching are not. So you mentioned this driti word
Mm-hmm.
and moving into confidence, and people were saying like, okay, I kind of want that confidence. In your practice, how do you see that has manifested in people? How does this come about?
Mm-hmm. One way to develop confidence is first stage is awareness. Need to aware. We need to have some knowledge, and then being disciplined and trying over and over, showing up and repeating it. That's confidence is nothing but repeating what you know
Mm,
and keep enhancing your awareness. That brings the confidence.
mm,
Lot of mental activities tells us we predict, oh, this is going to go like this may not go like this, or I'm going to be laughed at, or I'm going to be wrong. So not having this dilemma and inner dialogue, which is not the reality, and having clarity is the important factor, and then
mm.
taking action and just repeat it, be disciplined about it. Discipline brings confidence, in my opinion. And that's what I would say, that if we are disciplined, the simpler discipline to be waking up in the morning at right time on the right side of your bed, and then maybe just there is a little prayer we say in India, looking at your hand, and you basically it's called Karagravasate Lakshmi, Karamadhya Saraswati, Karamule Brahme, Prabhate Karadarshanam. Basically, you're saying the Saraswati, the knowledge goddess, or the one brings the prosperity, and then the consciousness. That's all in my hand. How I'm going to start my day with, and how I'm going to connect to this is going to redefine my day. And if you're going to
Mm.
have that intention in the morning, then that's the discipline you started with. And you start from that, putting the right food, like as we say in India, right? So you start with your right food. So once you start that, the rest of the things is going to go, because you set the intention for that day. And that's a discipline. And that brings the confidence, because
Mm.
nothing you have to doubt at that time. And you repeat this. And by repeating, it becomes a habit. And then, when we are habitual about something, it comes naturally. We don't need to think about it. So it's
Right.
like driving a car, right? In the beginning, when you start driving a car, you're worried about where's the clutch, where's the gas, steering wheel, so many things. You're going to start sweating. But once you're familiar with it, you can hold a phone, talk to a friend, and you can, reverse gear it and, make a turn. So this is where the confidence comes, because you're doing it on a regular basis, you're disciplined about it, then things comes naturally.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important piece just before we begin going into all of the information, because a lot of people have this information, but then, like you said, having that intention in the morning, that
Mm-hmm.
gratefulness, even that appreciation, can then launch you into that. And a lot of people wait for confidence to happen before taking
Mm-hmm.
action. But in this
Mm-hmm.
case, we're taking the action directly, and the confidence comes from this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Amazing. So before we jump into some of the doshas and more in detail, um, for people who, let's say, just skipped the illuminating dialogue number 9 and are unfamiliar with Ayurveda, the 5 elements and 3 doshas, would you mind giving in a nutshell, summary of these 3 aspects?
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the 5 elements, dosha, and what's the other one?
Ayurveda,
Ayurveda.
the
Okay.
name.
Ayurveda is a bigger umbrella, which is a science of life. It's a science which gives the factual knowledge, cause and effect, and it tells the relationship between living being inside and outside, and how one affect the other. So basically, it gives the facts, and then we can connect to that, understand that, feel that, and experiment that to realize that. So this is Ayurveda is a science of life, science of happiness. It simply defines Ayurveda makes life worth living and brings joy and happiness to life. That's the marketing heading of Ayurveda, like a motto of Ayurveda. Prevention of disease, making life worth living, bring joy and happiness and harmony. This is what Ayurveda advocates. And it's nothing to do with any religion. It's the science. You can relate that to quantum physics, cause and effect theory. and understanding of what exists and how we can perceive and understand the cosmo to the macrocosm. And doshas are the one of the energies we can say it's a language that we use to understand this dynamism of human physiology or nature, and to understand this cause and effect theory. Doshas are nothing but the functional principles, they are attributes or qualities. This is the language we generally use to understand, cold, winter is cold or summer is hot, the person is very cold-hearted or very warm. We describe this. And doshas contribute to these qualities. So doshas are nothing but the spectrum of qualities. And there are three major groups of these qualities. One is known as vata, which is related to airy, light, moving energy, and pitta, which is warmth, so heat, intensity, transformation related energy. And then we have kapha, which is related to earthy, grounded, holding everything together, moisture, bonding energy. So we can see these qualities in general in a human being. Somebody is very vata, who moves fast, thinks fast, don't like to sit quiet, being very active, mind can easily get agitated and disturbed. And then we can see pitta in an individual who are very intense, very ambitious, goal-oriented, sharp-tongued, very powerful, leaders, these kind of quality. Then we see kapha in an individual in a nature of physiology, bit of a stout, strong body, grounded, calm, patient, gentle, caring, these qualities. So this is how doshas can contribute into your physical structures, your behavior tendency, how your physiology works, that we understand through the language of dosha, which is vata, pitta, kapha, and they are responsible for maintaining your physiology, along with the other important factor we call agni. I think we can talk that about in another season. And that's the dosha. And the 5 elements, which is further, before we understand the doshas, 5 elements are the concept of understanding the creation. Everything that exists is made out of the 5 elements: the space, air, fire, water, and earth. And that arranged in a different combination and permutation, giving a uniqueness. And these 5 elements are present in everywhere. Like if I'm talking about a glass of water, we call this as water, but we know that it has got a minerals in it, air in it, like H2O, oxygen. And, it has got the space element. So it contains everything, but predominantly it has a water element. And if you take a piece of wood, it has got more earthy element, but it also has got the other elements in it. So this is understanding the matter, pure physics, you can say. And doshas brings the dynamic or kinetism, like an action into this physical energy. So as we study the material is physics, but understanding the changes, reactions. So when you bring in chemistry into the physics together, that's, I would say, it's understanding the dosha. So this is the concept of that. And Ayurveda, we covered that one, which is a science, which is umbrella. Underneath comes the doshas and the pancha mahabhutas, or 5 elements, or agni, dhatu, so on. So like the more you discover and deepen your knowledge, we can go and explore further.
Yeah, and what happened last time at the end of the podcast was really the opening or the flowering of understanding that we are not separate from the macrocosm. So, like you just said, these 5 elements, or I believe in the Sikh tradition, they're called Panch Shabads, or certain types of vibration, exists in us, and also the macrocosm. So I think that level of understanding is very helpful in a holistic way to understand, okay, how am I moving? How am I thinking? And so we covered a bit of that theory from the last episode. So I'm wondering now if we can give a bit more nuance and depth into noticing we are governed by these 3 doshas, or 3 doshas inside of us. How can we start to notice when these are off balance?
there's a simple definition in Ayurveda. It says happiness without reason is your dosha is completely balanced for you. And so there's no reason that you feel happy. So that's when you know your doshas are in balanced state. If you feel pain somewhere, if you feel worried, if you feel hot, so this indicates those doshas kind of the fine tuning, which is supposed to give you joy and presence and contents and connected feeling. If you deviate from that, any kind of disturbance, any kind of dukkha, any kind of pain indicates either in the mind level, body level, indicates your dosha is out of balance. And I'm talking here, it's not like, okay, as soon as I feel a pain, okay, everything is broken. Like imbalance is a gradient, it can be small level, but you also need to keep in mind the body thrives to keep the balance constantly. Only we have to really with force to break that balance or go against body's innate ability, innate wisdom to trying to make the balance. So we have to be so strongly opposing it. So then only we get manifest diseases. So we start with the discomfort and then becomes the disease.
And I'm right in saying that the intuition also plays a part in knowing in which direction to go in to balance yourself.
Absolutely. Like as soon as we feel disturbed in the mind or disturbed in the body, discomfort, pain, anything, we're not talking about the joy that we feel or happiness we feel externally. So, that's why I started with the sentence saying happiness without reason. That's when your dosha is balanced. Not like, I bought a fast car today and now I'm happy, right? It's like there is a reason because you think you relate to your happiness to having that car for a while, but that's going to diminish. But without reason, feeling happy that's when you know that your doshas are balanced.
And so it gives the audience like a slight perspective shift in that our natural state is already happy. It's just that we have to find out kind of what's making us come off the natural state. And so it was really interesting last time we talked about at the end prakriti, and we were touching on certain foods and certain plants as well, but we didn't really get to talk about the definition of prakriti. So I was wondering if you could also explain what is prakriti and why is it important to know what prakriti is?
Okay. Pra means the original state, the origin, and kriti means the original establishment of who you are, how your body functions. Your prakriti gets determined when at the time of your conception. So you can say that, in science, we talk about genetic predisposition, gene blueprint that you're born with. So constitution of prakriti is your original state, which creates a equilibrium when you're conceived. And that's what we need to maintain. And that can be supported by, when you're inside your mother's womb through her lifestyle, her way of thinking nurtures that, because you are one with your mother. You're connected through umbilicus and you take her food and you're one, you're not separate, even though you have a atma or the spirit of your own, but it's in a state that it's not that influential. So you really take everything what's going on in your mother's life, along with your predisposed constitution that you gain from your ancestors. Primarily, your prakriti is determined by the constitution of your parents and the environment that's probably strongly influencing when you're conceived. And as you know, your parent constitution by your grandparents and stuff. So that means there is an influence of your ancestral genes on you, plus the environment that you are formed or you're growing up in your mother's womb also can affect the equilibrium of the constitution. You're conceived, and then how it is manifested by the time you're born. So that's prakriti, your original state, the combination of genes and everything that is maintaining the perfect balance of physiology in your body.
And this is, as you said, influenced by the behaviors of the ancestors or your parents, or also just their natural prakriti state.
Yes, it's their natural property. Or if they're in a state of imbalance when you're conceived, you're going to acquire that as your constitution. And if your mother is going through a lot of stress and she would take some medication and stuff, it can affect your constitution. So you're born with an imbalance, like that's when the newborn can have a congenital diseases or malformation of organs, or born with genetically affected diseases. So this is an effect of the conception. So that means your prakriti is already born with a vikruti, the opposite of balance, your true nature, which establishes wellness for you. And when it is out of balance, we call it is vikruti, which is far away from the balanced state. And that's the state of manifestation of diseases. When the doshas go vikruti, we become diseased. So that vikruti can happen inside your mother's womb if your mother or her circumstances are not conducive for her health and your health.
Okay. And is there a way to determine your vikruti that you do in the practice?
Yes. And if your dosha, if you talk about dosha out of balance, that is vikruti. So vikruti is, and you understood through out of balance dosha, when you experience, when you're not happy, when you're not connected, when you're having pain, worried, anxious, grumpy, angry, lethargic, this indicates your doshas are out of balance. And when you feel like this, either you can, take temporary solutions of, adrenal kicks, or going and having some alcohol or partying. So you can distract yourself to connect to the happiness from externally, but you're going to go back to your, square one zone, what you are after the effect is left. So that means the imbalance is going to go deeper and deeper when you are not under the influence of this temporary comfort-giving activities or substances. So you're going to become much more out of balance, and then getting into the real state of balance becomes much more challenging. It's like, you're going much more deeper. So whenever we are feeling this lack of joy and happiness, it's time not to, we can take a temporary source. Like if you go and do a meditation, you're taking a source, but you're not masking. You're working with the real issue, and how you're trying to find a balance. If you're feeling overwhelmed with emotions, you can find a solution by really knowing what is it going on in me, what am I feeling, and with whom do I feel these emotions and problems, and communicating that. So in that way, you take action to process. So balance happens through processing, connecting, reorganizing, not just, bringing something else and just putting on the top, or like, covering something with a carpet, and under the carpet, there's a lot of garbage.
Yeah, amazing analogy. And I'm coaching a lot of clients, and actually what seems to come up across the spectrum is about not just silencing the mind, but noticing that in the body, we're not listening to the body. And so, like you said, meditation allows us to check in with different parts of the body, and where there may be out of balance. So the qualities of exercise, I know that you recommended for me a type of yoga, hatha yoga. So the qualities of exercise, the qualities of movement, the qualities of meditation, how do they play a role in helping you balance your prakriti, your tridoshas?
See, once you understand in the prakriti, means you're understanding how your body functions, how your mind functions. So how you understand your strength, you understand your weaknesses. It's like having a manual. You buy a car or you buy a machine, it comes with a manual, right? It says, don't run beyond this. When it turns red, you do this. So it's like having a manual, and it tells you how often you need to service or how often you need to clean. So this is a maintenance tool. So knowing the prakriti is having a handbook for maintaining yourself. So once you know the prakriti, then your idea would be to balance what you have a tendency, because each prakriti has a tendency towards something, and you want to find a balance where it doesn't become uncomfortable for you. Right? Say, let's take an example. A Vata really loves to be active, they're creative, thinking a lot, very fast and very quick. This is what makes them alive. They are they are joyous, they are vivacious, they initiate you, bubbly people.
Mm.
But if they know this is who they are, but they don't take care of themselves by getting enough sleep, going to bed early, eating regular meals, and not go jumping from one attitude to the other without having a break. So this is what going to increase this vata. And it's like the vata, air, generally speaking, breeze is nice. We all love breeze, right? In a hot weather. But if it is a storm, we're not going to like it. It's going to be destructive. So vata in the form of breeze, there is a rhythm into it. There's a pleasantness into it. And if that level, vata is good, performing their multitasking, creativeness, joyfulness, all these things. But if it turns into chaos where they're anxious, forgetful, can't sleep, can't sit quiet, then it indicates, this vata is too much. So that means movement irregularity is going to affect vata. So too much of that is going to throw you out of balance and you become crazy. And you exercise in order to supporting that. You want to create a rhythm because vata is unpredictable. It's too much movement. So having a stable hatha yoga, that's what I recommended, or some yin yoga in the evenings, routine, warm food, and exercise. You don't want to be doing anything overstimulating because vatas are already stimulated. They don't need more stimulation of their mind and body. Anything they would need to quiet and learn to quiet and calm down and focus. This is what helps them to balance. So your exercise need to be hatha yoga, which is connecting to the breath and your focus, staying in one pose. You develop your mind's tolerance to be focused, be control of your mind. Yoga is nothing but it's chittavritti nirodhana. That means you're controlling. It's controlling the action of the mind. You become the king of your mind. That's the title of yoga. So by practicing yoga, you learn how to control your mind. Because I'm shifting a little bit here. Maybe it is important. We cannot change your constitution. You're born with the constitution. You're going to be that. But you can change the guna of your mind. There is guna of the mind, sattva, rajas, and tamas, and they are related to doshas as well. But if you're born as a vata, pitta predominant, kapha as a tertiary, you're going to stay as that person, and that's where your balance is. That's where you're going to be happy. That's where you're going to be healthy and energetic. But you need to know when to not overpour this energy. But your mind can be changed. You can be vata person, and what we thrive in finding a balance or spiritual growth is we want to bring our mind to the level of sattva, where it's present, calm, content, and joyful. So you may be suffering from a little bit of excessive dryness or, skinny joints and tightness in the joints and all those things, tendency, but your mind going to be calm, disciplined, when to shut off, when to start. So this is where we can train our mind to bring into sattvic state. Right. So when you do yoga in that way, you conquer your mind's unwanted activities. And that brings the discipline there, and that gives you the confidence, and you still nurture the innate nature, the strength you have got, and you minimize the negative aspect of vata, which is usually when it's out of balance goes into anxious, dryness of the body, constipation, bloating, aches and pain, dry joints, emaciation, like there is no juice left in the body. That's what happens with too much of vata.
And that greater understanding of it, like no juice left in the body. Because, I've heard like, oh, I'm forgetful or I'm in a rush, but we wouldn't link that to a constitution. We would just say, I'm forgetful, so I need to remember more. But actually, when we start to understand that this pattern is part of the whole flow of our being, we can start to shift that. So you mentioned as well previously that we are able to naturally shift ourselves to the middle state. So taking vata again, vata keeps wanting to stimulate itself. So why is it that it wouldn't want to naturally come back to center? Is it more like an environment issue or mind issue here?
Mind and environment too. So body has this tendency. When you're in the beginning, when you're deviating from the imbalance, when the imbalance start to creep, it really gives you insight, craving the things to balance. So basically, vata, when the early stage of imbalance start to happen, it's going to start wanting to sleep early, need more sleep, likes warm food, get agitated by noise and all those things. So you feel sensitive to cold, you feel sensitivity to noise. And so you it tells you what to do, and you start craving, wanting, and feeling comfort in things, which brings the balance.
Mm.
But we, again, this is where we go into the prajnaparada. We're not going to listen to that because there is a trend. You're cool if you eat raw salad because, and it's healthy. Or there is a trend that you go to, party, you mingle with your friends because, that makes you included. And then you go against that. You feel that noise is sensitive, or you feel like I want to sleep early, but you stay up because you caught up on surfing on YouTube or whatever. Okay, so this is when we're not listening to your body. Tells you got to sleep, but you're tempted with something. And then we start doing the first prajna parada, then it adds into. So the imbalance becomes so strong. So your buddhi, your consciousness is completely not centered. So we keep doing more of the stuff which leads to out of balance because energetically the imbalance is much more stronger. It has completely taken the intelligence of your body. It's in a way to say, in a subtle level, that's where also the cancer manifestation happens, because the intelligence of the cell, how fast it need to multiply and mutate, is completely, the buddhi is lost, the intelligence is lost. And I read the beliefs, the start of the cancer comes from vata imbalance, because vata is the initiating dosha, which disturbs. And when vata is pleasant, there is a calmness and clarity and sharpness. So that also makes the vata constitution people, generally, when they're focused and doing like an inner sadhana, they achieve the more of a spiritual clarity much faster than the other two constitutions, because their energy is so subtle, so they can feel more. So you can use that in a right direction, but also you can use it in a sensitivity into, craving for more, this hyperadrenal experiences too.
Yeah, thank you for just bringing that depth to that, and that buddhi. I think that would be a nice topic to also discuss, talking about balancing the doshas and the buddhi. So people who haven't come across this word, I think people have come across the word Buddha, but maybe not the word buddhi. Could you tell us what is this buddhi and how can we make sure that we're not coming away from it?
I think in a Hindi word, I think we use the common words called akal. Those who speak, or like, don't you have a basic awareness, basic understanding of, that's buddhi. It's the intelligence of your cells. Like cells have their own intelligence. The DNA, you can say, it knows what to do, right? It knows what to do. That's the thing, buddhi. You know what to do. Your innate ability, your intuition, your what's the other word I'm not getting at this moment? Instinct. That's it too. Yes, that's all. We have that by, like, the instinct of baby as soon as born. It knows how to suck from mother's breast. That's instinct. So this is buddhi is inside us, right? And then we need to cultivate more and more of that buddhi, which brings awareness of who am I. Okay, we're talking a little bit beyond topic here. Who am I? Why am I here? And how I relate to myself to others, and understanding this whole existence and what I'm doing here with the life that I'm given. So that's where you develop your buddhi. You feed the buddhi with practices, consciousness, mindfulness, all those tools what we have got. This is where you're connecting to your buddhi, and then buddhi is connected to the buddhi of the cosmos. And then sometimes we get this knowledge without searching for it, reading from a book. You get it. Right? Sometimes you can see on a day-to-day basis simple things. You might have a problem, or you're thinking about something. I think your background was a researcher, right?
Yeah, I was in biomedical engineering, so I did a bit of research.
Yeah, so it's like you have few things you're trying to figure out how, when, and stuff. You
Mm,
just sit there. Sometimes it just pops into you, right? You
mm,
have did the thing, and you're really not connecting, starting from the point A to Z to figure out, but it just pops. It makes sense. So the same thing. This is like once your buddhi is pure, sattvic, and you have a discipline and you keep your body healthy, mind is going to be healthy because body and mind are not separate. If you work through your body, and then you're going to see these sattvic qualities by eating sattvic food, having sattvic company, following the rhythms of the nature along with the rhythms of your body. You can increase your intelligence just starting with the body,
mm,
and mind practice can follow later.
mm. And so that gives a lot of depth for people about how they can actually start to balance their doshas, going to that deeper level of cultivating their buddhis and having that more stillness and conscientiousness. So,
Mhm.
so then coming to, um, we talked about exercises and like yoga or other forms of exercise to quicken or speed up. Is there any, before we move on to certain qualities of food, is there any other
Mhm.
modes of exercise? For
Mhm.
example, we talked about vata, but for also kapha and pitta that they could
Okay, yeah.
employ.
Otherwise they're going to be jealous, like I only
Yeah,
people
because I
only
don't want to be so
people
biased, you know.
actually. um, okay, so definitely good brought me back into talking about that. Pittas, they generally have a very good metabolism, heat transformation. That's
Mm,
what makes them a good leaders, motivated, ambitious, wanting to do things in a very thorough and very particular way. For them, they need to have a good exercises to keep up that fire or burn that fire off. If they have a lot of this fire and they're not using it either intellectually or physically, it's going to turn inward, creating problems of inflammation, heat, a liver related issue, pancreatic related issue, because it's a heat, like, and it's an energy, right? It need to be transformed. So they could do on a good way a good high intensity physical workout
mm,
and transform their body, get stronger, fitter. The only thing they need to remember, they should not push them more than their half of the capacity, so they're going to end up having burnout if they push them too much. So pitta
mm,
have this tendency to wanting, pushing them. Pushing is the pitta's tendency, a little bit more than yesterday, a little bit more than my neighbor, a little bit more than my friend. So this is pitta's tendency. So for them, when you do any physical activities or challenges, you really want to listen to your body, and you want to do, just generally saying, Ayurveda says you exercise half of your capacity.
mm,
And you need to push for some performances and stuff. You push a little bit more, not overly. When you finish off your exercise, you should not be feeling tired. And
mm.
Pitta should never exercise in a hot environment. Bikram yoga, hot yoga, running in the middle of the sunny days. I see some, Bali tourists, they come, they take their shirt off with, skin, and they jog in the midday. So I would say, if you're Pitta, you recognize you're a person a little bit, a little bit of high strung and very determined and ambitious. Do a good exercise. You need it to half of your capacity, increase very little, and don't exercise during the midday in a heated environment, and not too late also, which applies for same for vata also. They should not be exercising in the evenings unless you're doing it in yoga, because you don't want
Mm.
to overstimulate your body. Other way
Okay.
around, kafas, you know, the kafas are the one, they don't really like exercising. They're comfortable in sitting
Mm,
in a place. So they are the ones who need to exercise more. If you don't like exercising, if you're a kapha and you like the comfort of a couch or sitting down and reading, you got to exercise more intense. You got to push yourself more than what you think you can do. And you got to exercise more than the other two constitutions. So for you, if you exercise in a little bit of hotter environment, as long as you don't have any inflammatory condition, it will be good because you're going to sweat out, you're going to, move things, and, body becomes much more supple, because kapha tendency is to hold on to things. That's why they have a tendency to gain weight easily as well. So for you, moving, exercise, do not eat in the morning until you kind of move first, get your engine warmed up.
mm. And
So Kapha need to do those mode of jogging, running, high intensity, HIIT, all these things. You benefit from these exercise more than the other two constitution. Pitta, doing mindfully is good, but Vatas, you got to be careful.
And you mentioned holding on to things for kapha. Is that in terms of emotions?
Yes, emotions and also material things too. Emotional is kapha. Generally, emotions of they suffer from when it's out of balance. Kapha suffer from emotions of sadness and depression and holding on to past memory, difficult to let go of any painful relationships, all these things. So kapha is just too attached. Even they kind of suffer, but they're not ready to let go. So it's hard for kapha to come out of a unhealthy relationship or a job where the bosses don't treat them well. All those things are a challenge. Kapha generally suffer from depression, and Pitta suffer from a issue of anger, judgmental, critical, self-judgment or judging others, those things. And Vatas generally suffer from anxiety, stress, chronic worrying.
And then am I right in also saying that the body and the mind can be in different levels? So, for example, if I'm a Vata individual in the body, my mind can be in a different disposition.
Yes, can be. If you look at your constitution, you can have a kapha body and a vata mind. That makes you are a constitutional wise vata kapha. So where physical features are more like a kapha like slow metabolism, you move slow, but your mind is consciously worried and anxious. But for outsiders, you don't see that because you conduct yourself in a very slow, easy way, but you only know what's going on in your head.
Okay. And that gives a little bit of insight for people who are maybe thinking, I feel like a kapha, but my mind is maybe racing. And so we talked about first the consciousness and the buddhi and maintaining that in order to balance our doshas. And we talked about the exercise. And now in terms of if we find, okay, maybe I'm not predominantly vata, but I want to increase my vata through physical movement or through practices, how can somebody go about increasing their vata?
Okay. This is what I want to clarify here. So you're not trying to increase what you're not.
Oh, okay.
It's like, say, you're trying to maintain what you are. Okay. You want to strengthen what you are. Okay, because it's like take an example of constitutional. It's the energy, how the mode your body functions. You can take an example of, I think maybe I spoke to you before, like you have engines in vehicles.
Yes.
So you can have an engine of a Ferrari or an engine of a tuk-tuk or a truck, right? So you cannot turn the big truck engine into a Ferrari engine, right? You only service it to be efficient. Trucks are known to steady, carry heavy weights, and keep going in a pace, right? So Ferrari is known for quick, fast, those kind of stuff. So when you talk about constitution, you're trying to keep that engine of what you're born with in a healthy, fine-tuned. You're not going to try to change that engine. You're not going to try to become like a kapha. If you become like a kapha, you will be depressed. If you're a vata and you want to be like a kapha, it's going to be, you end up being depressed. That's when you look like kapha. Or a kapha becomes like a pitta, like, emotionally, it looks like an imbalanced pitta. Like you get grumpy, irritable, you're not very polite like you used to be. You're not like a pleasable. That's what becomes you're a kapha, you become an imbalanced pitta. It looks like a pitta, but it's out of balance because from being a person who is very composed and stable and content, you become really grumpy, irritable, complaining person. So you're not trying to have more of the other energy. You're trying to fine tune the energy where you are in, and you're not trying to go out of balance.
Okay, I think that's a really key point because sometimes in society expectations or maybe the career we're in or a certain environment that might, or the culture that might want us to go from, let's say we're a triangle into a circle mode. And so that brings again about the buddhi, tuning into yourself and what your own constitution is, and then playing to that.
Absolutely. And you can achieve the happiness and success being in that. You can't compare your success to another constitution. You cannot think of you for a vata and I want to be athletic and endurant and bossy. This is not you. You're going to become a mean person. So you can be vata person who is very joyful, witted, and lively. This is where you can achieve being that. And as vatas are known for its creativity, you have your success in the world of creation, creativity, communication, those things. But a kapha who generally makes a caregiver and who puts methods in practice. So we need all group of people into make everything go or run smoothly. We need leaders. We need people who follow the instruction of the leader and achieve things. Caregivers. We need creators. So this is how the whole universe also works. Creative mind and organizing by pitta and then getting delivered by kaphas.
Wow, okay. I think this has gone to a deeper level that I never considered. So now we're
Mhm.
talking about the way humans are working in the world, and
Yeah,
and like you said, there's sort of like a chain or ecosystem here of how people create,
absolutely.
how people
Mhm.
care give, and how people
Mhm.
almost delegate or lead.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
they lead. Like we
amazing.
need leaders to tell who does what and make sure that everybody is doing that. And then we have the
Mm.
creative brains, they need to come up with ideas and new innovations and stuff, but they're not going to get things done. Vata gets distracted, and they have the tendency to not finish off what they have started. It's hard
Mm.
for them. Right, you
Mm.
give those things, you work with a group of other people, like that's how you create a community or whole ecosystem. But pittas are the one who knows how to take an idea and transform it, and kapha are the one who is going to deliver, work hard.
Mm. And coming back to the topic of balancing the doshas, if one
Mhm,
person finds themselves in a certain
mhm,
position, let's say now we're no longer trying to balance through exercise, but let's say we're in a career scenario and
mhm,
we have a leader who's very pitta dominated but struggles to come up with ideas or care give, or we have a vata who's very creative but struggle to actually follow through in a project.
mhm,
What's the recommended practices for them to actually balance their energies there so they're able to still go forward in their career but have these attributes of the other qualities?
mhm. Okay. So, I talked before about once you know your constitution,
Mhm.
you do right action. Lifestyle, we talked about, hours of sleep, when to sleep, and what not to do. So, being a vata, you don't want to be do erratic activities, jump out of the bed, grab a coffee, and drive and rush to the work, right? So, vata would be good if they plan. They kind of sit down before they go to sleep and to say, okay, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do this. It doesn't mean that you need to stick to the T, but at least you project what I'm going to see, because vatas don't like to see, they like to rush in. But once you have an idea, you don't need to make it all the time decision. So you just have an idea and then you run through that.
Mm.
And pittas usually don't need this because they're generally so disciplined people. Only thing I tell a pitta, take it easy a little bit, have a little fun, don't be so uptight. So for them, that's what they need to learn. So not always on to the checklist and getting it delivered and not having fun. So
Mm.
pitta need to loosen up a little bit, and that's what makes them much more. They need to open their heart.
Mm.
And kapha, on the other way, they have a difficulty to start anything. So for them, once they start it, they're going to stick to it ever and ever until it becomes stale. So a kapha need to try to make changes on a regular basis. They're very good at sticking to a routine, and they don't even think and question the routine. They keep doing, eating the same food, walking on the same path, doing. So they are accustomed to a habit. But in
Mm.
order to break that, in order to bring more initiation for them, they need to become like a vata a little bit. They need to have some looking for some changes regularly, challenge them, try something new, try something different. So they need
Mm.
more stimulation. Vata and kaphas are quite opposite. Then by
Mm.
nature, it is opposite. The only common factor between vata and kapha, they both have cold energy. Cold, that means constriction, poor circulation, don't have much cold tolerance. That's the only common factor. Otherwise, vatas and kaphas are completely opposite. Vata like to move, kapha doesn't like to move. Vata is light, kapha is heavy. Vata, kapha is smooth, vata is rough. So it's like kapha, to keep it healthy, circulating, not get stagnant and too much. It need to have vata's tendency. So they need to have a vata friend to, regularly stimulate them, change them. And a vata should have a kapha friend to, slow down and, calm down. So this way, like when you're out of balance, okay, lifestyle, sleep, and food.
Maybe before we jump on the food, I was just wondering, just to finish off so we went to exercise and to career, maybe to finish off the career aspect, that we talked about different cultures last time, and how the pitta or the vata may be very predominant in the coming up culture in terms of globalization. So, what type of tendencies can help balance this in terms of a fast-paced structure, in terms of from a dosha perspective?
Most of us, we are in the out of balance state of both vata and pitta, and then eventually, if we don't check on it, we end up having kapha imbalances, because the whole when you call burnout, that's what we end up if we don't check what we're doing and not sitting down and thinking, where am I going? Because when you have burnout, everything just stops, and you mimic the state of kapha. So if this is how globally we are going, so if you, I think everybody can start with understanding their own constitution, and then seeing, okay, what can I do in taking care of my constitution, where I stay, what is my happy state, what makes me happy, not from the external thing. How can I connect to that happiness with lifestyle, diet, my dharma, as a human being, where do I serve outside, so having that harmony itself, if everybody starts opening up their own constitutional manual and start doing things, I think then the global check would naturally happen. So it's not like globally we need to do something. So I think everybody needs, as we know, the change need to happen within ourselves and every individual. So if everybody is going to look into the basic needs, in Ayurveda says the basic needs we have is food, sleep, and search for knowledge. So it's called ahara, nidra, and brahmacharya. So these are the three things that we need for our happiness. So if you eat right food, if you get good rest, and then you're open for consciousness and awareness and learning, things going to go fine.
Amazing. And you also talked about dharma and how we don't need to have this, okay, we need to change things from the outside, but it's tuning into dharma. And before we move on to food, I think dharma, especially in the West, is something that people are not sure about, and they're just saying, yes, dharma, make up a dharma for yourself. But if you could tell it more from an authentic perspective about what exactly is this word?
A simple way, if we are talking in the perspective of Ayurveda, dharma is righteous action.
Okay.
What righteous action for yourself, righteous action, if you're a family person, to your family, to the nature, other living being, what's righteous, what brings joy to you and joy to others, where is a win-win solution? This is dharma. And you can have dharma through your profession, you can have dharma in your relationship. What is righteous, what is win-win for both of us? This is what the simple way to look into dharma. And dharma can come with the perspective of passion, what you do for your work, what brings passion for you, where you bring joy, what you do, make a difference to others, and it brings the joy to you. That's passion. You have some skill, and then you can make a difference to others, and as you offer that, you enjoy it. That's passion. So people look for passion. What's my passion? What's my dharma? So dharma is doing something which is good for you and good for others. It's a simple way to do. It's
Fantastic.
a righteous way of doing things.
Yeah, and I think that clarifies quite a lot about sometimes we're looking externally, and it's again, like we said at the start, going internally and connecting to that buddhi for the dosha balance. So just as we approach this topic of food, I'm also, because you talked about exercise, you talked about career, and now talking about dosha balance of food, how can we start to recognize what the energies of foods are in the world, and which ones we should be eating from Ayurvedic perspective.
Okay. I mentioned understanding dosha is a simple way. It's doshas are nothing but the bunch of qualities, like I said, cold, dry, light, and heavy, all those things. And everything which is made up of 5 elements carries these qualities, and doshas are nothing but the combination of certain dosha. They're working together in innate nature. So food also carries. Food is also made up of 5 elements, right? So food also can carry the same qualities of dosha, whether it's light or it's heating or it's cooling, it's heavy, it's slow or it's fast moving. So these qualities, that means similar quality increases, opposite quality balances. This is a basic principle of when you choose a food and how it affects your body. So if you're a vata, you're generally cold, and you have a lightness, and there is a roughness in the mind. So, and you don't want to eat any food which carries this quality. So that's why Ayurveda recommends a vata constitution should not eat much on a regular basis salads, particularly in the cold season. It means salads are light and cold, right? You generally carry this quality of light and cold inside you. That's why vata circulation is poor. They suffer in winters. So if you eat these same energy, it's going to increase your vata. And when increasing vata means it can further affect your circulation, the thermodynamic in your body, metabolism, releasing energy and stuff. So that's why you don't want to eat the food which is light, cold, and dry in your nature. And also stimulants, because vata is generally very stimulated minded people. So you don't want to eat too much of coffee or alcohol or stimulants or recreational drugs and all those things to further stimulate, and you go out of balance. And vata out of balance can look like very agitated, anxious, nervous, cannot focus, cannot think straight, and then eventually end up having anxiety and panic attacks and stuff. So this is where the role of food comes, because you're increasing the similar qualities that governs your physiology. So same thing, if you look into pitta, there's a lot of heat and intensity. And if you eat the food which carry the similar quality, like animal protein, too much of animal protein, particularly red meat or spicy food, fermented food, all those things contains heat and intensity. Nobody sits quiet if you bite a chili where it's spicy, right? You become sharp. The emotion comes is anger and irritability. So, these qualities are generally there. They have a good fire, good digestive system. You don't want anything to increase heat. So heat increasing, spicy food, red meat, heavy quantity of protein, because protein releases lots of heat in the body. Alcohol, tomatoes, these are the things as the pitta. I'm not saying you should not be eating. You want to be mindful and consume less, but eat the food which are much more opposing to your nature. So you want to eat a lot of alkalizing food, vegetables, which is calming, grounding quality, root vegetables, green leafy vegetables, fruits, and whole grains, all those things. So this will calm you down, so it doesn't increase the aggressive quality of eating too much of meat. So, when you're feeling run down, that's also the reason. Some women crave meat when they're going through menstruation, or men who are exhausted and tired, they feel like, I want to eat a piece of steak to feel strong, because, this food gives this energy, but you're generally all the time like this, then you don't want to increase it further. So reduce these kind of food if you're a pitta. And kapha generally have a tendency to slow metabolism, lethargic, and don't like to move much. So you don't want to eat a group of food which are heavy in nature. So, simply think, to experience this. I think in the last episode I said, Ayurveda is a science which can be experienced. It's not like somebody did a research in the lab and comes and tells you. So it's something you can experience. So imagine you went into a big feast and you ate everything from starter from a big buffet until the dessert and ice cream. End of the meal, you feel sleepy and stagnant. You don't want to move, right? So kapha's energy is like that. So they need to eat something which is light in nature. They don't feel stagnant, sleepy. They can eat a bit more of a spicy food. They can enjoy some coffee, because it gets them out of this stagnation, lethargic stage. So
Ah,
there's like, that's why there's no food completely considered bad, don't touch it. It just, you know what those food does to your system, and you think of yourself how you are, and you're going to, it's like a thermodynamic. If the room is already cold, you're not going to turn on the AC, right? You're going to turn the heat.
I was going to touch on relationships, but perhaps we can save that for another time because that's a
Mhm.
topic in and of itself. But in terms of the seasons of the world, like you're in Bali right now on the equator, I'm uh, in Scotland, and so we have quite seasonal weather here. How is that
Mhm.
affecting each of the doshas, the seasons,
Mhm.
and what should they be
Yeah,
doing?
seasons definitely affect it, because seasonal change is also changing the quality in the nature, right?
Ah,
So winter season, it's cold and everything freezes, so it definitely increases kapha. And summer season, it's hot, so it increases pitta. Fall, where it is rainy and windy, it's cold and wind, so it increases vata. So this is how three seasons affect the doshas, and you can see the trouble of diseases also, like fall seasons, people suffer from lots of ache and pain and arthritis and stuff. In the summer season, people suffer from heat, inflammation, all those issues. And winter, people have congestion, sinus issues, and lung infections and stuff. From the winter to spring, in this junction where a lot of allergy, sinusitis start to develop. So the reason is, in the winter season, there's no sunshine, no clear sky. Kapha increases and they're solidified in nature. But as the spring begins, the real spring, where you start to see the sunshine, like 15 degrees, what we talked before, the heat rays start to melt up this accumulated kapha, and people start to suffer more spring allergies than in the real winter time, because in the spring, the accumulated kapha gets aggravated, active, manifesting into diseases.
wow. And I've never thought of it in that way, but now it
Mhm.
makes the universe, or at least the seasons, feel much more alive and organic.
Mhm.
Um, and then, so summer, I'm guessing, would have a pitta quality, and
Mhm.
autumn perhaps a vata quality. And so
Yeah,
so if I'm a pitta and it's summertime, perhaps I'll get too much aggravated. And if I'm a vata during the autumn, likewise.
yeah,
Is that correct?
yeah. Yes,
Okay. And so in that case, we would have to maybe have some countermeasures during these seasons to bring us
exactly.
back
And
in
I would
balance.
talk about your diet needs to change, your lifestyle need to change according to the season also. Certain group of food you don't eat during certain season. And for everybody, but the people related to that constitution, you need to be a little bit extra careful.
Okay. Wow. So this was like almost a in-depth guide on a lot of topics on balancing your doshas. Um, is there anything else that came to your mind that you'd like to share just as we are wrapping up?
I think going forward, whoever listen here, and you're going to look for understanding your constitution. We do have a good questionnaire we have created, which is quite accurate. Maybe I could give you a link to that, and you can
Absolutely.
offer it to people, and then you can understand a bit more of a constitution. And a little advice here is, when you're doing the constitution, do not think what you're feeling in the last 2 months of your life. When you answer those questions, you want to see what you are in general when you're not strongly influenced by challenging lifestyle situations. So your general tendency, when things are good, how would you generally behave, who you are, until it's influenced by society or people, your true nature. So answer that way, and you can get. And once you know that constitution, it's not like people follow this blood group diet. Okay, you eat this, you don't eat this. It's not that. Okay, you all have all the three. The only thing, you need to be fine tuned to be fine in moderation. Moderation is the motto of Ayurveda. And tuning into yourself and feeling that for yourself, and keeping your buddhi alive. It's like a lamp, oil lamp you have got. You want to fill up the oil right amount, keep the wick really not too small, not too big, and keep it burning. That's how it is. It's illuminated, and you constantly do everything to keep that illumination inside. And we talk about a concept, it's a topic for another day, like Agni. So the simple thing of all choosing the right food and going for the group of food, other than understanding heating and cooling food, have everything in moderation and keep an eye on your Agni. Agni is ability to digest food. That means you know when to eat, like means sensing hunger, emptiness inside your stomach. That's the time to eat. So if you eat when you're hungry, you don't overeat, you eat 3/4 of your capacity, and then lean more towards this group of food, what I talked about. If you're pitta, reduce spicy food and fermented food. If you're vata, don't eat raw and cold food much. If you're kapha, don't eat heavy, high calorie rich food and oily food and stuff. If you follow this general guideline, it's not that of a rocket science to, keep yourself healthy and know your body and take care of your health.
Yeah, and that Agni concept just seems to carry throughout, that we can check in, and it's very practical for ourselves. So, as always, if people want to find out more, Amrita Siddhi Ayurvedic Center, I've gone to myself and understood my dosha, my prakriti much better. Where else can people find you?
I think they can reach out to me through our Instagram. So they can always message us if you're interested. Our Instagram is same as our business, Amrita Siddhi. If you have any questions or inquiries about different programs we offer, Panchakarma and stuff, if you want to visit the center, or if you just want to have a in-depth Ayurvedic consultations, you could just email us through the inquiry form in our website as well. This is how you can reach me for further information, any queries, any questions you have got.
Fantastic. And I'll put the link in the description below. Well, as always, it was honestly a pleasure. I've learned so much, and I'm sure I'm going to learn more as I edit this this conversation again. So thank you so much for coming on.
You're very welcome. Your Vata curiosity helps to keep this flame running.
It does indeed. Thank you, Dr. Sujatha, and thank you everybody as well for listening.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening, everybody. Bye-bye. See you in the next episode.
Thank you. Bye-bye.